So, how do you experience Ampliz shape your perspective of building a resilient business?
There are so many companies that I have seen over the past year that have come to my table. They have a solid MVP, but the moment you ask them to scale up, things start breaking.
What advice would you give to the early founders?
I really appreciate the ambition and the drive. I think they get stuck on relating growth with a lot of vanity metrics.
I believe at our Champions Accelerator, we would support startup founders.
To help them reach their ideal path to executing their plan from ideation.
Hi, Sreedeep. Welcome to the Champions podcast. We just want to know more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And first off, thank you for that. And, I guess thank you for inviting me onto the podcast. But real quick, I guess just starting off with a quick introduction about myself. My name's Sreedeep, of course. I'm a little bit of, let's say, a digital hermit myself, if you ask me personally. And, big bibliophile. I love reading some books on my off time, but on a real note, I have the opportunity now to head the marketing division of Champions Group, and more specifically late B2B, and that's been a fantastic opportunity, especially over this past year. But before that, of course, I had the fantastic opportunity to work with a bunch of different companies and consult for them, especially in terms of marketing. We looked at a bunch of companies specifically out of the US and the UK, and I think that's what really inspired me to see what I can do in terms of leveraging some of those abilities for Champions Group, and more specifically late B2B, because I think personally for me that's where my interest has always been. I've grown up in this company. I've gotten a chance to be part of this since I was in shorts, so it feels great to finally give back or be in a position where I have the skill set to be able to contribute back to a company that's given me so much. And that's why I really appreciate your time and having me on here.
Since you mentioned you've been able to work with the US and UK, right? So what was the experience, and how do you see the difference between US and India?
That's a fantastic question, right? I had gone over there for for college, of course, and I spent about 2 years in LA, 2 years in San Francisco, and that really got me really, I guess, ingrained in a couple of systems and a lot of the community there. And what I was able to notice is definitely more of a, say, supportive community for, especially for entrepreneurs and startups. That's something that I was able to notice. Sure, I think that depends on location. For example, in my personal experience, I think San Francisco is far better for startups and entrepreneurs, for sure, but it's also far more competitive. And funnily enough, I think by the time I was leaving, the consensus was that if you're looking for startup funding, you definitely should be heading back towards LA and a little further down south, just because of the fact that they've done so much in terms of building a community there. And by that, I mean, the reason the communities are built there is they're able to leverage kind of the educational systems that they've built to ensure that there is a constant stream of talent that goes into these organizations. So, for example, Qualcomm and companies like that are all set up done that because you have 4-5 different, top colleges to kind of have your pick of students from. And I think that's what really feeds a lot of the innovation there, and that's what feeds a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit, because a lot of the people down there are really looking to kind of create that next big unicorn, and there's a lot of support for that. So I think that was my big learning and experience, I would say, from there, is definitely the sort of appreciation and the love for the entrepreneurial drive and spirit it's incredibly strong in the States. And in India, I think that's growing, especially with a lot of the younger folk. I'm glad to say that I can see the sort of drive there, but I think the support systems are definitely where we're lacking here now.
As you mentioned, right, I was just going through your background, right? So I see you have co-founded a lot of companies also, and also now we are leading Champions Accelerator, right? The question comes like, what was the turning point that made you too passionate about this empowering startups especially?
No, I think that's a fantastic question. And I think personally for me, what really did it and what was kind of that turning point for me personally was really getting to witness the gap between ambition and execution personally myself in the States. Like we had some great ideas. I had a great team. We were a small team of two other founders, and we had a couple of different projects that we were working on. Sadly, I think in our particular case there, we didn't really get the support system that I felt like we really needed to thrive there. And this was, I think, just before kind of the era of the freelancer and AI boom, where I guess it's a lot more viable now to really do things yourselves. And the issue then was trying to deal with a lot of, say, enterprise level infrastructure, but not being able to do that with a small team. And I found those limitations really frustrating when we had the ambition, we had the idea, we had the plan, but the execution was really being held back by some sort of lack of support, let's say. And that's what really led me to kind of want to build a support system like that in Champions Accelerator. And the idea has always been getting people connected and building a community and a support system, because what I understood very clearly through the two companies that I tried to launch and spectacularly failed in was funding just isn't enough. And I don't think going forward it will ever be enough. So getting you connected with the right investors, getting you connected with a community of founders and co-founders who can be those partners to help you really appeal to the right investors, I think is the way to go, and what we are looking to support at Champions Accelerator.
Great. Now, I'm going to talk about one of our division. So how do you experience Ampliz shape your perspective of building a resilient business?
That's a really interesting one, because I think Ampliz was personally a masterclass in resilience. We faced a lot of shifting markets there, and what I think was really the core idea in terms of building a resilient product with Ampliz was the fact that we were able to build it around our customers. And I think in the end of the day, that's truly what will and has led to its success. Is the fact that, of course, it is adaptable, but we have built it for our customers and we have built it to scale. Considering that I'm here with the accelerator as well, you would imagine that I see a ton of proposals of a ton of AI-based companies, and a lot of them I feel lack this resilience. And by resilience, let me clarify, I do mean the sort of resilience to scale, and not just resilience as a concept or the ideation of the product itself. I think a lot of people put a ton of work into the ideation of the product, and that's fantastic, because obviously the more you ideate on it, the better the plan, the better the final execution would be. But where I think there is a major lack certainly is, once that execution is done, having a resilient and robust system to scale up from that. There are so many companies that I have seen over the past year that have come to my table. They have a solid MVP, but the moment you ask them to scale up, things start breaking. And that is the lack of resilience that I'm talking about.
As a startup founders, right? The people who are starting their business, what advice would you give to the early founders, especially preparing for the first investor conversation?
Definitely the inability to scale. I think not being prepared, not being ready to scale sustainably is something that has costed and will cost a lot of startup founders going ahead for sure. And I think if you ask me, the biggest pitfall definitely is people chasing vanity metrics, especially startup founders, because I see a lot of them, they're very eager to learn. And so, maybe they end up learning a lot of these, let's say, concepts from various YouTube videos and things like that. And I really appreciate the ambition and the drive, but I think that gives them a sort of false sense of security in terms of their understanding of these concepts. And because of that, I think they get stuck on relating growth with a lot of vanity metrics. And I think as anyone who's been in the industry like yourself, that's not a metric that we look at when it comes to sustained growth, and not one that we should be measuring. So, I think that's definitely one of the biggest pitfalls. I think the simplest advice that I could give is get a partner, like get a partner. Because trust me, the moment you get a partner involved, a co-founder involved, the chances of you getting investment, the chances of an investor being more impressed, and investors are just far more likely to invest in you as a company if you have a co-founder. People hate investing in solopreneurs right now. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe people just don't want to support the next solopreneur, or I'm not sure what it is. But from my personal sort of experience, that's definitely what I've seen. Is a lot of investors are really iffy when it comes to solo co-founders, and I've seen what a team can bring to the table, and I understand the limitations of trying to do something yourself. And
I believe at Champion Accelerator, we would support startup founders to scale the business, right? So this is one of the agenda what we have from Champion Accelerator. So I'd like to share some insight, like what are things they're gonna get from our end if what are they come into.
No, absolutely. I think the goal with Champions Accelerator, again, thank you guys for giving the platform to showcase this a bit, has always been building a community of startup founders here that are here to support each other. Like I mentioned, what I truly hated was the gap between ambition and execution. And our goal at Champions Accelerator is to help startup founders really cut down on that. So the idea is, if you are a small team, if you are a solopreneur, I think that you should have the tools to handle everything from ideation to execution on your own or as a small team. And how do you do that, right? That's where I was always stuck. And the goal with the accelerator is to build a network that can help you do that. Let's say, for example, you're looking for a CRM, we absolutely got you covered there. You're looking for phone line services to set up some sort of international calling, we absolutely got you. Let's say you're looking for data, you're looking for campaigns to reach out to people, you're looking for some sort of website services, we absolutely got people on all of those fronts. The goal is we are absolutely built for and perfectly positioned to to provide these services to startups to help them reach their ideal path to executing their plan from ideation. So we're taking these simple kernels of ideas and helping them grow through not just outreach and inbound and obviously increasing their customer base, but helping them reach out to investors, handling their financial services, handling their legal compliance, handling various other hiring and IT related infrastructure. These are all areas that a lot of startups, personally, in my opinion, do not put enough mind to. And that's where we were talking about earlier. I think that's one of the biggest pitfalls that a lot of startup founders fall into is you have your MVP. Sure, now how do you scale from here? Have you even registered your company? Have you, I looked into what the infrastructure would look like if you had to scale up? What's the investment look like for that? Can we find an investor who has invested in a company like this previously, who would be more likely to invest in you and would definitely come in as a partner because they're experienced and have the knowledge and wherewithal that you need. These are the questions that I think a lot of startup founders aren't asking, and that's where Champions Accelerator comes to help, because we're here to ask these questions for you.
That was too in depth. Well, now next we're gonna move on certain things which you love the most. So you have described yourself like you are in love with AI or data innovation. So where do you see AI having the most immediate impact on startups today?
Oh, this is something I could talk about forever, but I think to keep it short also, AI is absolutely democratizing expertise at light speed, and that is the core of what I would want people to take away. You can have your own expert at everything at your fingertips, and I think not leveraging that would be the downfall of most companies right now. But in terms of where I personally see AI heading, especially in the space, in like the spaces we're in, personally, I think there is room for saturation here. But the markets that I think people are definitely underlooking are the traditional ones that can be revolutionized by AI. For example, we're looking at traditional sectors like manufacturing, transportation, farming. I think sectors like this are the ones that truly have the most potential to be revolutionized by AI. And if you ask me, I think that's where the next big Indian startup is going to be coming out of as well, in one of these industries. Because I've seen a saturation in terms of a lot of SaaS related products, let's say, because a lot of people understand that these products are kind of temporary. There's not really a long term plan with a lot of these products. Whereas I think something as simple as applying AI to traditional industries, like we were just discussing, is ways that we should be innovating that maybe we're overlooking. I think a lot of people get caught up in the flash and the pizzazz that we forget the simple steps are the ones that will probably help us the most.
By the way, why do you fall in love with this AI data innovation?
That's
Not going to come to this.
That's a good question. I think personally, what really made me fall in love with it was, like I mentioned, being able to be an expert, in everything. I think we all love the opportunity to be a know-it-all. Who doesn't love being, having the answers to everything? And AI lets you have all of that at your fingertips. The internet used to let us do that already, and now I think what AI has allowed us to do is really simplify that and make that so much more accessible. Because, for example, before, if you had a question about what is the best, maybe a type of product that I should be making right now, maybe understanding user sentiment, this, that, you would have had to go onto Google, maybe go on various social platforms, understand user sentiment, record all of that yourself, analyze it. Now it's as simple as asking a simple AI tool, hey, help me out with this, and it goes ahead, does all of that research in a matter of seconds, and you have your answers.
So tell your top 3 AI tools.
Oh no, that's a big one. No, you want me to reveal the sauce? Huh? But sure, I think I think the big ones that that people absolutely need to be using are, Plexity is one that I think I will add as an honorable mention, because I think everyone is using that already and absolutely should be, because it is hands down one of the best tools that I have ever used, and it's revolutionized the way that I have personally approached research, and the way that I approach everything. Even, for example, investors, like one of the best use cases that I have found for Perplexity, and something I would recommend every startup founder try, is just have it research and analyze your product market fit, see if it makes sense, and look for gaps as an investor, and genuinely look over those gaps. And the next time you are presenting to an investor, present those gaps to the investor, showcase your vulnerability, and trust me, that showcases that you are at least you're in a position where you understand what's wrong, what's right, and what's wrong. It's not about being in a position where you know everything, but in a position where you at least you're able to differentiate. But in terms of 3 tools, Perplexity, I think, is too good. But post that, we're definitely looking at, for myself, Claude for, I think, for content creation, everything from writing to coding. It is fantastic, unmissable. I think people who are still using ChatGPT over this are definitely sleeping. I personally haven't touched ChatGPT in months. I have tried the new updates in there, but personally, a lot of these other specialized tools are just far better. And I think a third, obviously, great mention, and one that I recommend people check out, of course, is N8N. That's more so for orchestration, but fascinating systems. I think these 3 systems alone, you could you have the potential to generate a high value startup from just understanding these three systems, these three tools, and integrating them together.
So, what role do you see Accelerator playing in shaping the Indian growth story?
What is the goal of a network if not to connect this entire group of like-minded individuals?
So, what is making you to keep up and running on daily basis, connecting the founders to founders, come with a unique product?
Let me just say, I like being a matchmaker. Maybe I should get into the matrimony business or whatever, but
Business money. What will define the startup of the future down the line 5 years from now?
we're not looking at the next feature being built. We're trying to find the next product, the next $1 billion company, right?